Okay, guess I got to do a little bit of editing on this deal because my phone ran out of power. Therefore, the recording stopped. And so I went back and I got everything plugged in, and I went back and I checked to see how long ago my phone quit. Roughly. I think I missed about 5 minutes. All right. So this has been sitting here for a little bit again. So let's continue to do. Okay, here's a spot. Now, they're in the paper. I'm going to just throw that to the back and let them figure their way out of the paper. We're just going to continue to do what we're doing. Quite honestly, we're getting to the point here where there's a lot of worms in this area, and they are getting quite congregated. So just grape stick with a worm on it. So see, two worms. These guys are so small, but I'm sure a couple thousand of them probably weigh 1/4 of a pound. Maybe not. Don't know. They're just small, and they... Alright, we'll take that piece of paper out now. Shook them off. But there has to be a lot of worms in this whole area now, because right from here to here, as I'm skimming off the top, seems to be a lot of worms. I know this is going to be a long video, guys, like I said, and I'm pausing it for you, and I've got to do some editing along the way because of the equipment shut down with the camera. Like anything that's of size and I see, I'm going to try to just put it back in the back over where I want the worms, but obviously I am not getting all of the worms. If I went back through here, you would find especially small ones. So my bin's transparent. I had a fella ask me, how's that working for you? Because he thought that the light would bother them. I don't really find the light being a big bother in any... This bin is 6 inches deep. So with that, as I add material and as I make a wedge out of it again, it'll have enough material and depth for the worms to get out of the light. So I'm not noticing any issues with this transparent bin. Translucent almost, because you can't see through it, but you can see light through it. So believe it or not, I think we have more material over here than we do over here. So really, it's not going too bad. What the heck, throw it behind the paper. The worms, we'll get it figured out when it's time. There's a lot of worms back there. Okay, so paper, paper, paper. One little baby worm on there, but nothing too serious about it. So that's one comment that I have addressed in this video is, yeah, the translucentness of this bin does not seem to bother the worms at all. I think I said it before. If you want, like, subscribe, share, comment. Smash the notification button if you want to get notified when we throw something else up. Most of it's going to be worm videos for now. As we get into spring, the whole reason I've concentrated so hard on doing a reset on this bin is to get as much castings out of this bin as I could. And I'm there. It's becoming somewhat, yeah, I could get more castings out of there, but it's becoming really not as a productive an idea to do that. Like, we're not getting as much production out of this stuff anymore. For one, we've got such a population of worms in here that this stuff is staying really wet because of the worms. The worms help keep it wet. The food that I give them helps keep it wet. And in this area, this small little area, for the amount of worms that I have in here, I have to feed them. If I didn't feed them, I'd starve them. And I'm not going to starve my worms. You see how I'm just pulling up waves? Like, get to something that has a lot of worms on it, set it up. Just set it on top. The worms will dive down. And then go back and remove the paper or whatever afterwards. It's working just fine. So we'll just, you say, it's just like waves in water. You just kind of keep at it, and like waves in water that eventually will erode the beach. Well, that's basically what we're doing. We're getting back. Paper. Like I said, just in my time, while I'm standing here doing this, I take the pieces of plastic off that I see. I'm getting quite a little pile of them over here. And as hard as I try to keep that from happening, it happens. It's pretty clean. maybe 1 or 2 babies on there, but let's get serious. I don't think it's going to matter much. Onion peel. See? Worms in an onion peel. Imagine that. And they say, don't give them onion. Come on, guys. I've proven this time and time again that you can give them onion. Just don't give them all onion. Maybe that would make more sense, right? There's a lot of people that they'll see something on TV or they'll see something in a book and they'll say, that's gospel. That's gospel. You can't do this. You can't do that. Wow. If the world operated on that line of thinking, we'd still be calling the earth flat. Because everybody knew that the earth was flat back in the old days. So if you don't try something new, and you don't revisit things and see maybe why people are saying that. Yeah, there's sulfur in onions. I'm not denying that. Should you load this up with onion peels and expect the worms to eat them all up for you? Probably going to be a mistake. But I don't load them up. I throw some onion in. I throw some potato peels in. I throw some carrot in. I throw a banana in. It's not one thing. And to do that and not put the diversity in your bin, you're going to run into trouble whether you give them just bananas. Just bananas, you'll have nothing in here but fruit flies. And you won't be able to hold them out because the fruit flies are coming in after the sugar. And if you just put potatoes in, I really don't know what would happen. I don't think potatoes, I think it would take a whack of potatoes to make a harmful situation, but like anything else, I'm sure there could be something come up. Like maybe your bin would be way too wet because of the potatoes and what they hold. If you just do watermelon, you're going to have that. You're gonna have the simple fact of you're putting so much moisture in that your bins are going to get too wet. So, in moderation, I guess, is my advice on onion, but they will use it. Okay, I've covered this in previous videos also. Some people, worm farmers, quite a few worm farmers, give their worms worm chow. Worm chow is there's grains in it. There's oats, possibly wheat, probably corn, probably other things in the grain variety, right? Lots of guys go buy a bag of chicken food and they'll grind that up with oatmeal and they'll make their own worm chow. Do I have a problem with that? Not as long as it's on their farm. I'm not going to do it here. I have pigs that eat grain. I can take the pig manure after it's rotted and sat out for a year, and I can put it through a windrow. And I can run my worms through the windrow. And there will be lots for the worms to eat. And in here, in this situation, I'm not bringing pig manure in my house. So, you know, I might keep worms under my bed, but I'm not bringing pig manure into my house. So, things, why I won't do worm chow. Well, let's just talk about that for a minute. It's grains. It's a grain-based thing. Grains should be fed to higher up the food chain things, and then what comes out of those higher up the food chain things, like pig manure or however you want to, whatever you want to put it into, whether it's rabbits, chickens, pigs, they all produce manure. Now take that and condition it and mix it with leaves, give it a high carbon source, and then put it through your worms. Is it more work to do that? Maybe. Is it? I think we're coming into a food crunch here, people. And that's why a lot of people want to get into gardening and worms, is food's getting so stupid expensive. And so we're coming into a time in our history where maybe we should be feeding something higher up in the food chain or whatever, and then feeding the manure that comes out of that animal that's higher up in the food chain, such as pigs or chickens or rabbits or cows. If you want to feed grain to cows, you can. I'd try not to on my farm. And then take what comes out of them and go put it in your worm bin or put it in a windrow. And, you know, worms don't care. I might not have the fattest, biggest worms. And that don't bother me either, because I'm using them for composting. I'm not sending them off to go into containers for fishing. If I did that, I may eventually do that with my European night crawlers, right? But not yet. I don't have a big enough population yet. My population doesn't have to be fishing size worms to reproduce. So I'm kind of going to the point where proper use of resources. We have lots of garbage in the world. We have lots of waste that worms can help us with. Turn it into nutrients to go back onto farms. That's my interest. My interest is not going out and buying something at a feed store, hauling it home and feeding it to my worms. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the people that want to do that. What I'm saying is I'm not going to do that. We're really getting down into it now. Pretty sure you're not seeing all of it, but this is, it's getting pretty filled up over here with worms. Come a long way. There's definitely a lot more over here than there is here. Just going to take some time to get through it. Especially now we're getting into some of this paper, which I thought was going to be a great idea to just toss it to the back of the bin and put the worms on top of it. If you want to do a light extraction method, I maybe don't recommend that anymore. But I learned something, right? I learned something. So we're just going to continue doing what we got to do. Get these guys out. And I am actually enjoying this. This is it's kind of neat to see once you get down to this level what you got. So I'm actually going to start a worm pile over here. In the corner. Oh yeah, there's a lot of worms here. There. Putting that in a pile. And that will work stuff out of it along the way. But that's where they all are. Now, is it worth my time to, keep sifting over top of that, or should I just put it in the pile? Pretty good pile. Pretty good ball. Here we go. Here's another one. Worm ball. I'm going to take that paper out. I'm going to put them there. The rest of that worm ball. And I'm going to continue flipping stuff off. And now we can go two directions, right? So that helps. Now we're going to gain a little time, because as we get that, we're saving time. And it amazes me how they just bury into the paper. And I'm just trying to delicately get them rolled off of the paper and into the big worm ball. And am I going to get them all? Nope. But look at how many worms there is on this paper, and they're all little. Little worms love paper. Yeah, that's good enough. There's only a few left on there. Little worms aren't very heavy. Worm ball, go to the worms. So I would say next time you want to, if I want to do a light extraction method, I will not be throwing my paper underneath it too. Although it's not that big of a problem. Okay, I have spent 5 different times trying to pick that worm up. Sometimes you just gotta cut your losses, because there's gonna be more worms. soup. I am enjoying this. I think this is really neat to find out where we're at. In this bin, there's a lot of worms in here. And like I said, it's not an accurate what you would get out of 250, but it's going to be interesting. Alrighty. Do you see this? Into the worm ball. Like I said all along, this is getting quite concentrated into the worm ball. I know I can do that same thing right here. Into the worm ball, guys. And we're just trying to take some of the paper out while they're going into the worm ball. Because I know that right here, we got the same thing. And right there. So I hope this is as much fun for you now as it is for me, because anytime a worm farmer sees a worm ball that size, that's pretty darn exciting. Into the worm ball. Okay, guys, I'm gonna pause you and just let these guys roll around for a bit. Pause. All right, we are going to peel some more stuff off. We're gonna push these guys over to the worm ball. Colleen came up to see how many worms have been living under her bed. Okay, so all you worm farmers out there that are seeing this, you know how excited this can get somebody like me, because there's a whack of worms in this just going to make all of our worm ball one. And then we're just going to keep flicking off the overage as they push it out. Because they do. They push it out for you. So we're dangerously close to finding out how many pounds of worms we got in this bin.
I wonder what was taking you so long.
This is fun. So maybe I got a weird sense of fun, but this is fun. And this is not, like I've said it and said it and said it, this is not all of the worms that it could have been out of this bin because of all the different things we've started with it in the last year. Had we returned all of the eggs and all of the cocoon of the baby worms along the way to this bin rather than starting other bins, which now have probably a pound or two in each one of those, this would be different. This pile would be a lot bigger. And I know there's worms over here. The amount that they're going to weigh up to be maybe quarter pound, maybe half pound. Don't know. Don't care. I'm not willing to go through to find out again. I know there's a whack of worms in here. So as I go along, I'm just going to take off the big stuff as they're pushing it out to me. Sometimes I find a piece of plastic, another piece of plastic. Just take it out. Another piece of plastic. Get quite a little pile of plastic over here now. Mm-hmm. Another piece of plastic. And like I said, as hard as we've tried, I consciously, when I do my shredding, I consciously take off as much plastic as I can. I guess in my thought process, maybe it's coming from some of the coated cardboard. But in all actuality, if the worms can use it, what's the big deal? Peel the plastic off later. Just like I'm doing now. I mean, God, you're sitting here waiting for the worms to push stuff up anyways. You might as well just take the plastic off. Sometimes we as humans want too much out of things.
Which one is this? It doesn't have a label.
That is my first brooder bin that is about to get a reset. Okay. When I reset this bin, I'm going to reset that bin.
Okay.
But as I was saying, sometimes the worms don't care if they've got to eat on one side of a piece of cardboard because the other side of it's shiny. I took a poll as I was doing this, and not one of them put their hand up and said, "We don't like that."
You're lame.
Well, this is where all this plastic's coming from, I think. So they're taking the cardboard off one side of it, and they're leaving it. They're leaving the plastic after there's no more cardboard to take off. They're taking it away. So why are we as humans so concerned about we can't do this? We can't put onions in because they don't like onions. I proved that wrong already. So when it comes to plastic coated cardboard, I think we overthink things. I really think we overthink things. Because I'm positive that's where some of this stuff's coming from. I'm positive that's where the plastic's coming from. I've picked a lot of it out. It's fine. I'll pick it out. It doesn't bother me. Standing here waiting for this stuff to happen anyways, so it's okay. This would have been a really long video had we gone without breaks. Or pauses, I guess. Not breaks, but pauses. The worms never stopped doing their thing. Okay, let's bring you over here. Maybe get you a little different view of this. Like I say, this is exciting to a worm farmer. And if it's not up your alley, I understand, but hey, you can always look away. And there is worms that are coming this way. I know. They're really small and I don't want to damage them all up by really fighting with them. So I just kind of, you know, there's thousands of worms that are probably over here, but they're not real big. So we're just going to do the best we can. Take the pumpkin seeds off. Any of the big stuff off, we can get off. We're going to try to get a real clean sample to weigh, right? I guess we'll call it a sample. We're going to try to get them cleaned up really nicely to get a good weight. So okay, let's pause you and let them guys go down for a while. Okay, so I've been at this for a while. I've let them sit for probably 5 minutes now. And you see how they've expelled all of the stuff, well, a whole bunch of stuff. So you just gently try to get it off. Because now they're going into ball mode. Now they're going to head for the ball. They're not going to head for many other places. They're going to head for the ball. And so you just try to sift that stuff off along the way. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And yeah, as we do this, we get the ball more concentrated and we get more of this out, so with our weight, when we weigh it, will be much more accurate. We won't be weighing a bunch of overbearing stuff like the castings or the paper or the bedding, extra bedding. And we work that so that we can shoo the worms back to the ball. And I know this may not be very exciting for some of you out there in YouTube land, and I'm sure you probably are going like, why didn't this guy just, kind of guess? Well, I don't know what to guess. That's why. I just don't know what my extra bedding and stuff here would be amounting to, because this is my first kick at the cat. I have never done this big of a ball before. So I'm trying to be as accurate as I can. All right, we're going to pause you again. I'm going to clear this other stuff away while you guys are paused. And I'll bring you back when the ball pushes more out. All right, it's been a few more minutes. Probably about 4 or 5. I think we're getting down to the nitty gritties here. Take off the big stuff, pumpkin seeds and such. So at what point do I have enough overage left in my worm pile to equal the amount of worms that went in on the side I was putting things? Because there's a lot of worms over there too, right? I know there is. So I think eventually we're just going to have to weigh it. Because once we get it weighed, we're ready to do the reset on this. We're ready to bed them. We're ready to feed them. We're ready to let them be. Because the last 3 weeks of their life, they have been sifted every few days, turned up. We've fed them, but I think they just are getting to the point they just want to be left alone, and I don't blame them. Really couldn't blame them for that. And to be honest, I think it's time to move on to something else, right? Like, this has been a pretty big project for the last couple of weeks. Is getting, it's not that it takes forever, but it takes time, and it takes, I mean, I'm sure you guys are maybe getting tired of just seeing, we got more casting videos. We got more casting videos. It's just been, I do my videos as I do my worm farming, and we all have seasons as a farmer. You know, when you're farming out in the big world, you got seeding time, you've got you know, maintenance time where you got to keep track of your crops and hopefully the diseases don't get in and everything else. And then you've got harvest time. Well, this is harvest time for me. Not that I'm selling worms. But if you want to learn, you have to measure. And this is me measuring. I mean, we're definitely got a nice sized worm ball. That's for sure. So, like I said, it's fun. But I'm ready to move on to something else. I can't just keep showing you guys videos of me taking castings, and you're interested, but your patience isn't going to last forever. I mean, we gotta keep bringing you better stuff to see. And this is pretty good. This is a big venture. I mean, this is the grand finale. This is the trophy part of the gumball rally, I guess, or something like that. So we're just, I mean, we're still going to be sifting that one wet bin for a few more times because it's just nicely getting in shape. That bin's going to get a reset the same time this bin is. And you know, this guy's going to get reset today. That one's going to get reset today. Our ENC is probably not today, but in a few days, maybe we'll sift them again and sift that other bin again. And like I say, my farm is, I show you as I'm doing it. So if this is what we're doing, this is what we're showing. And yeah, my hands are dirty. I have a fingernail brush and a whole bucket of soap in a sink. I wash my hands, clean them up like a doctor does, and continue on with my life. I understand that some people may have somewhat of a phobia about touching them like I do. But you have a lot better feeling with your fingers than you do with gloves. I think we're there. I really think we're there. Okay, there's very little big stuff left. Okay, we're gonna get all go for the gusto here and call her a day 2. Time to put the worms in a bucket and weigh it. And I'm gonna put the bucket. See if I can get the scale to sit here. I'm going to turn it on. I'm gonna zero it. That bucket weighs 1/4 pound. Now it's zeroed. So we got the scale tared. Alrighty, people. There is my worm ball. And did you see how efficient that was? like almost all of it came up. There's very few left down there. That was pretty cool. And those few that are left down there, I gotta be honest with you, I'm not gonna try to pick them up and weigh them because I'm gonna do them more damage than I am. I don't want to kill anybody's. Okay, so here we go. And yep, there's still some castings in there. But there's still some worms in there. So we are teared. And we've got 1.9 pounds of worms. That's not what I expected, but is what it is. As you can see, there's still worms there. I will guarantee you there's lots of worms in there. So we're going to just say it's 1.9 pounds, 2,000 worms. But I think there's more than 2,000 worms when you've got them this size. And there's lots of them this size and lots of them smaller. Alrighty. There's a worm on the scale. Shut it off. Cool. So, under what I thought it would be, but realistically I can't change the number. I'm going to say, give or take, there's probably that 2 pounds of worms in here because there's lots of them went back there. So, in all of my worm farm, I guess with that, I've got to say I've got approximately 4,000 to 5,000 worms in all of the buckets with this one put together. We're going to take this paper and we're going to just and then bring it back over here, more of an end view. All right. So we're going to set this guy up on a wedge. And we're going to bring in some paper. And it's time to give him a fair bit. Paper, cardboard, eggshells, coffee grounds. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to show you putting the worm ball in. Yep, there's still worms in there. So, you just take some of the new bedding that you just brought in, and you just swish it around. Because they don't get smeared around that way. They get, there's 1, 2 on the outside. They are sneaky little guys. On there. of my arm. And one there. And these are toddlers. And like most toddlers, they get into places where you don't really want them. And now, for the food. So we got some berries. Frozen. I'm just gonna, there's lots of moisture in that. And we are just going to, first of all, open both bags and squish. That's the last of the really squishy stuff that came. We moved my daughter home, and cleaned out her fridge. We're moving. So we've got all this, we had all this stuff, bananas and stuff she was going to make fruit leathers out of, and, you know, different things. But when it came time for her to move, it was time for her to move, and we had to pack her stuff up. And then through the move, we said, well, she's like, well, you know, maybe the worms need something to eat. That was back in October. We moved her. And I'll tell you what, that just comes to be the last of the stuff that came with her. More onion. Going to get all aggressive, and I'm going to do this on this side and stick that onion in by itself. And then we're going to put some more paper and some more bedding, because we're doing a complete reset of this bin. And to be honest, it's time to make some room in my pre-compost bin so I can get rid of some more coffee grounds and some more eggshells and some more paper and get it started. There we have her. Worms are still here. They're going down. I'm going to leave them out so that they go down. I mixed up a little bit of molasses water for them. And I'm not going to get real fussy because they got lots of moisture down below. And yeah, that's going to fly. Like, let's move over here. We're doing a reset on this bin too. So again, I'm gonna do it like a wedge. And I fed them some potato and two potatoes. But I'm gonna set their stuff up here. I'm gonna get the bucket up here, and I'm going to do this. Use that for paper to cover them. Doesn't matter. And we're going to give them some new bedding. Go like this. Put some more new bedding. Take that back up there. We're going to call that good. Like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification button if you want us to notify you. And let's have some fun. Let's throw that at the back. I need your room. So I just threw back some more feed at the back. And I'm just going to go back and I'm going to cover it up with bedding. Fresh, new bedding. Pre-started. Now, part that drives everybody crazy. I don't know if it drives you crazy, but it's going to take and give them some dry. So we're going to throw some dry at the back, because if it gets real wet in there, that'll help absorb it. And if it don't, it won't. Put it all over this. Look at that. Cleaned up my hands pretty good between the wet stuff and the dry stuff. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great one.